Resuming, we are ready to hear the appeal of the Phuong Quach, case ID 180-83655. It is 11:41.
Good morning, everyone. Before we go on the record, let's just go over some quick housekeeping rules. Into the microphone so we can all hear. And Mr. Nguyen, I think you have to turn yours on first. There you go. There you go. So just speak into the microphone, otherwise it doesn't really pick up your voice. With respect to the exhibits, CDTFA, and I'll just be referring to you as the department, it's a little easier to say. But the department has provided exhibits A through N. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And Mr. Nguyen, we didn't receive any objections from you, is that still correct?
No, there's no objections.
Gotcha. Great. And we don't have any exhibits for the appellant, just whatever has been provided before, correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. And it's still everyone's understanding that the issue is whether adjustments are warranted to the determined measure of tax. Is that correct, Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
That's correct.
Remember? Okay. All right, sounds good. Let's go on the record then. This is the appeal of Phuong Quach, OTA case number 18083655. Today is August 21st, 2019. The time is approximately 11:43 a.m. We're holding this hearing in Los Angeles, California. My name is Daniel Cho. I'm the lead administrative law judge for this appeal. With me are administrative law judges Win Dang and Richard Tay. Can the parties please introduce and identify yourself for the record, beginning with the appellant?
My name is Phuong Nguyen, and I'm the representative for appellant Phuong Quach.
Thank you.
Phuong Quach is not here today because he's now fully employed, therefore he cannot go. And his mom is sick with because the weather changed, and I was waiting for her this morning to arrive, but they called and said that she was too sick to attend the hearing. So I go on their behalf today.
Okay, thank you very much. Department?
My name is Scott Lambert. To my left is Lisa Renati, and to Ms. Renati's left is Dana Flanagan Macbeth.
Thank you. The issue of this appeal is whether adjustments are warranted to the determined measure of tax. With respect to the evidentiary record, the department has provided exhibits A through N. There are no objections. Therefore, these exhibits are entered into the record. Appellant has not submitted any exhibits, but just will rely on the briefs that they provided previously. Mr. Nguyen, as we discussed at the pre-hearing conference, you'll have 15 minutes for your presentation, followed by the department's 15 minutes, and then a 5-minute rebuttal.
Okay.
So whenever you're ready, please begin.
Yes, Your Honor. The noodle, Hello Noodle House is open because of the whole family was unemployed at that time. The father, mother, and the appellant Quach is also at home along with his siblings, and they decided to try on the restaurant business, a small small restaurant business to see if they have any luck in life. And the restaurant is not doing well. Therefore, they have to close it, in the first 3 years of operations. And during those years, Quach also had to take out a loan on a second mortgage on the house to pay for the expenses. And I was not the one who prepared the taxes for along those years. They only asked me to help them with the presentation today. And the person that I talked to when the tax preparer said that they have their 1099K, which is the report of sales, of credit card sales, and along with the amount of cash which the appellant received during those years. And the explanation is that since this is a type of mobile drinks business, it's not really a sit-down restaurant. Therefore, there are not too many customers, even though they have a sitting area for 4 or 5, or I guess for 7 desks, I believe, 7 tables, I believe. But and they also said that since the restaurant is in the area where they have the schools, a lot of schools, and therefore the kids use a lot of credit card when they make the purchase. And I can understand that because of nowadays everybody using credit cards versus carrying cash, especially the kids, because of those kids going to school are subject to bullying and extortions as well. And also when the department said that they have the markup is very high, I agree with the department that the markup is very high because of drinks are just water and sugar, and also they sell noodles, and the noodle consisting of mainly of flour and soup. So therefore, the markup is high, and also the cost of labor is virtually nothing because everybody members in the family contributed into the operations of the business. Therefore, they could sustain more than the first year in business. And I would like to say that I disagree with the department when they're using what they call it, the credit card sales. I don't know whether that procedure has been ongoing for a long time, or they just been revised lately. But actually, the amount of credit card versus cash on this case here, according to the appellant's tax return, should be considered correct. And therefore, I would like to the panel to decide for the appellant on his findings. That's the officer.
Thank you very much. Department, when you're ready.
Thank you. In this particular case, the taxpayer operates a restaurant, and the audit was for the years 2012 through 2014, the appellant reports on a quarterly basis. Upon audit, the appellant had limited records, which basically consisted of income tax returns and some QuickBook reports of sales. There were no sales journals, there were no purchase journals, there were no purchase invoices that were provided, there were no guest checks. So essentially, the audit could not be conducted using a direct method. An alternative method needed to be used in this case. It is true that the markup on the income tax returns is somewhat high in some years and somewhat low in other years. What we found by polling one of the vendors that we knew of, which was Restaurant Depot for the year 2012, we found that there were over $10,000 in purchases during that year, although the appellant only reported or claimed $6,700 in purchases on their income tax returns. So there was a disparity between the cost of goods sold on 2012 income tax returns and the figures that we were able to obtain from just one supplier. So essentially the method that we use is a credit card method, which is an established method for establishing the audit liability. What we found by looking at the 1099-K, which is a summary of the credit card receipts for a given period of time, which is generally a year, we were able to obtain the credit card receipts from those reports. We subtracted 10% for tips, and then subtracted the sales tax out of that amount to come up with what the credit card receipts were for that given year. And I believe it was a little over $120,000. For the audit period, the appellant had reported $141,000 in taxable sales. So essentially that comes down to a reported credit card percentage of 86% and only a reported cash amount of 14%. That is substantially below what we expect to see for this type of business, which is a small restaurant. So we took the credit card receipts that were without tips and sales tax and divided that by 45% is what we would expect to see from this type of business as a credit card receipts, and we came up with $270,000 in taxable sales. We subtracted that from what was reported, which was $141,000, and we came up with a difference of $129,000. I should also point out on the purchases, when they had purchased from Restaurant Depot, what we found for 2012 is that 71% of the purchases from Restaurant Depot for 2012 were paid with cash. So if we look at the reasonableness of what was reported, it was $141 a day in taxable sales. The appellant is open. We estimated 10 hours a day, but if you do look at their menu on 74 of our exhibits, it shows that it's open 11 hours, but nevertheless, if you take 10 hours a day, it works out to sales of $14 an hour, which is essentially 2 meals an hour. Our amount that we came up with was $270 for a day, which still only works out to $27 an hour. So it's very reasonable. We also conducted 5 other types of estimates based on the information that we had, and the calculation using the credit card method actually came up with the lowest estimated taxable sales. So with that, the department believes that the figures that we arrived at are the best estimate of what the tax liability is based on the lack of records that were provided and the information that's available to us. And that concludes our presentation.
Thank you very much. Right now I'm going to open up the questions to the panel. Judge, do you have any questions?
I just have one question. I was wondering if you could explain to me how the 45% credit card ratio was computed?
Right.
How it's determined?
Yes. How that was arrived at was from a review of other similar businesses in the area and what we had found their credit card percentage to be, and it came up to around 45%. I would point out it really depends on the type of business and where they're located. As to the credit card percentage, there can be a range for that percentage. Generally, your nicer, well, I should say more expensive restaurants generally have a higher credit card percentage. So the larger the bill, generally the less people pay with cash. The more of a fast food type restaurant, people come in to take it out. It's generally more towards the cash end of the business.
Is there any evidence in the record that would support what you've just said, that we could look through these details?
Right.
For ourselves?
Part of the problem with that is the confidentiality runs into it, and the fact of us providing information regarding other taxpayers has not been something that we have done in the past. And although we could provide you with that information, we do have it. Because of the confidentiality, we generally don't provide that information.
Okay, thank you. One final question. As far as the 45% figure, is that on the higher or lower? Would that be on the higher or the lower end of the spectrum, the range you had mentioned for businesses of this type?
Businesses of this type, I would say it was in the middle of the businesses of this type. But as far as like an expensive restaurant, you can get up into the 90%, and you can have other ones that are down in the teens, depending on the type of business. So for this type of business, I would expect this to be somewhat average for that type of. There can be higher, it could be lower, but at this point we're going to pick the middle because that's what we're estimating. But using our other 5 estimates, this is the lowest of the other 5. Although I would point out we used whatever information that we had available for those other 5, and so most of the time we would not use those other 5 to establish the liability. But unfortunately, because the business was closed out at the time that we conducted the audit, we could not go in and conduct our own observation, which we would do if they were still operating. So we were not able to do that. And then we weren't able to use their records to establish it because they did not maintain the proper amount of records.
Okay, thank you so much.
Judge Tay, do you have any questions?
Just one question. Can you respond to what the appellant has to, or maybe the difference that the appellant kind of pointed to between sales of soup noodles versus cold drinks that might have been purchased and then brought out, I take it to go?
In terms of the markup?
No, in terms of the, I guess, for sales tax purposes?
Okay, well, all the sales in this particular business are considered taxable. They would fall under the 80/80 rule. And generally, most of the drinks are, whether it's 88 or 80/80 rule or not, would be subject to tax in that they're carbonated. If you had food purchases that were actually cold and they were to go, they were not consumed there, and you kept record of that, then you would be entitled to a deduction for that. So otherwise, they're considered to be taxable. There is differences in markups. There are, because of the noodles, there's generally a higher markup. Unfortunately, in this particular case, we can't rely upon the markup because we don't believe we have all the purchases. And then I'd also point out that even if we did have all the purchases, it's very difficult in this type of business to establish a markup. It can be done, but a lot of times what we find is the credit card percentage is generally more accurate than a markup, but we would use whatever information is available to us in order to establish the liability.
Okay, thank you.
I just had a couple quick questions about the exhibits. For the January 1st, 2014 sales receipt, I believe that is exhibit B as in boy. Is this something that the taxpayer provided?
Yes.
Okay. Then, Mr. Nguyen, do you mind if I ask you a question? So it says the total for that day is $59.65. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you know why there's a big a negative $287.08 on that page 3? It kind of doesn't have a real description. It's right after tips paid out.
The difference is I don't, because I wasn't the one who prepared the return, the sales tax return, therefore I don't know.
Okay.
To be truthful, I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Then another quick question for the department. In your alternative approach, number 4, you have, you did an estimate based on taxable sales reported by a similar business in the same city and same street. I believe you just estimated based off of 2 quarters.
Right, so this would be a similar business nearby, and what that essentially shows is it's, and if you're looking at page, well, I was looking at page 75, but on 103, well, actually, I would refer you to exhibit page 75. It has all of the different exhibits on that one, and the amount, which is option 4 that you're referring to, was an estimated taxable sales of $25,000, and our estimate came up with $24,561, so it's relatively close, but we're going to use our figure for that because it is based on the 1099 and it's not based on another taxpayer. If we didn't have the 1099 information, we may have used the $25,000 as a business that's similar to this particular one.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. Those are all the questions that I have. Panel members, do you have any other questions? Judge Dang?
No further questions, thank you.
Judge Dang? All right. Mr. Nguyen, you'll have 5 minutes on rebuttal.
I would like to request the department to clarify when the department refers to similar business in the area, what kind of business is that? Is that the same noodle house, boba drinks type, or it's what kind?
Well, Mr. Nguyen, this is actually technically a rebuttal, so you can just tell us whatever you feel.
Oh, what I feel is that because since the location of the restaurant is in the wrong location, I have to say that the wrong location because a noodle house in the middle of the Hispanic location is wrong. Therefore, I say that they do not doing well in sales of food, but probably they do a little bit better with selling drinks, boba drinks, and that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for everyone's time. This concludes this hearing. The panel will meet and will decide the case based on everything you presented today. This case is submitted and the record is now closed. We'll take a quick 10-minute recess to see what to do next. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.